Hello everyone, today is April 15th, a significant date regarding the most famous ship in history, the Titanic. To commemorate this date, significant to its history, here is my history of the Titanic. Enjoy! On July 29th, 1908, Harland and Wolff's design for the White Star Line ship, the Titanic, was approved. The Titanic's design was inspired by her three sister ships, the Olympic, the Britannic, which sank, and the Lusitania, which sank. Now, the next step was to build the Titanic. Starting in 1909, Harland and Wolff began constructing the Titanic in Belfast. 3 million rivets, 14,000 men, 8 deaths, and 2 years later, in 1911, the Titanic's construction was mostly complete. After, the White Star Line added lifeboats for about 1,400 people, equating to 20 lifeboats. Now, the ship needed to be tested to see if she was worthy to sail the 7 seas. Starting on April 2nd, 1912, at 6 o'clock, the Titanic, after it was launched for the first time, with no passengers yet, was tested to see how it would fare in the water. However, it had no smokestacks yet for some reason, maybe the weight. Anyways, then, the Titanic set sail around the Isles of Ireland and England to end up at Southampton from Belfast. On April 10th, 1912, the Titanic departed from Southampton, England, on its maiden voyage with 2,500 passengers of many backgrounds, and by that I mean many kinds of Europeans. After departing, the Titanic made a quick stop in Cherbourg, Octave in France, and then went to Queenstown, Ireland, or what is now called Cove in the Republic, to drop off and pick up passengers. Then came the long stretch of the journey from Queenstown, or Cove, to New York City. Oh, and by the way, I made this map. Isn't it good? Yes? No? I don't know. Over the next few days, from April 11th to April 14th, not much happened. The rich people, or the first class, complained about their rooms being too small and being too unfancy. The kind of rich people, or the second class, thought about their places in society, and the poor people, or third class, casually contracted tuberculosis. However, the Titanic's lookout man, Frederick Fleet, who may or may not have looked like this, I'm not sure, in the lookout tower, or the crow's nest, saw something. That something made him say, At 11:40 p.m. on April 14th, 1912, the Titanic struck an iceberg that was taller than a blue whale and longer than a football field. Captain Edward John Smith of the Titanic was asleep brilliantly, and he was later informed by the staff of the Titanic that the ship would be sinking in a few hours. Then, Captain Smith ordered the life vests and the lifeboats to be deployed. However, there were only 20 lifeboats, enough for 1,400 people. The Titanic had 2,227 passengers and staff, so that led to chaos. In the resulting panic, multiple people were injured in stampedes. The officer, named Officer Murdoch, shot himself from stress and guilt. And by 2 o'clock a.m. on April 15th, 1912, the Titanic had split in two, like the British monarchy. All lifeboats were deployed. The Titanic had shot flares to get attention, but were ignored by many, like Bill Cosby, and hundreds of people were still on the ship. And so, by 2:20 a.m. on April 15th, 1912, the Titanic completely disappeared beneath the ocean surface, like the amount of views I get in recent videos. After being ignored by multiple ships, the Titanic survivors, including the unsinkable Molly Brown, who I'm related to through marriage, were finally taken aboard a ship that noticed them, called the Carpathia, which would coincidentally sink a few years later. By 5 o'clock a.m. on April 15th, 1912, all lifeboats that were seen by the Carpathia's crew had been taken aboard. 3 days later, on April 18th, 1912, the Carpathia arrived with its survivors in the city the Titanic was sailing for, New York City. Even though the Titanic remains below the waves today, thousands of feet below the surface, degrading slowly to disappear, the memory of the Titanic will live on. And there it was, my history of the Titanic. Now for part 2 of the video, which you know was happening if you were paying attention, my cover of My Heart Will Go On, the main theme from the movie Titanic, which I'll probably get a copyright claim or a strike for. But anyways, here it is because why not? Enjoy. And with that was my history of the Titanic and cover of My Heart Will Go On. James Cameron, 20th Century Fox, Celine Dion, Don't Rip My Head Off. I hope you enjoyed it. I have been obsessed with the Titanic my whole life, so making a video on it finally gives that chapter of my life some closure. I mean, I've seen the movie 22 times and counting. Anyways, my next video will be a giant announcement and will be released on April 17th in 2 days. Stay tuned for that. Like, I'm not joking. It's a humongous announcement. Really though, believe me. Anyways, thanks for watching. Happy Titanic Day or whatever you want to call it. Thanks for watching.